What's up guys, welcome back to From the Attic, and today I have something very special for you. Yes, my first video on the PlayStation 5. I received it a couple of days ago and so far I'm just blown away by the console. This is actually my first time playing games in 4K on my TV and it just looks absolutely insane. And what can I say about the DualSense? I mean, this has to be my favorite controller ever. It just feels great, it's not too big, not too small. That sounded weird. The haptic feedback also adds much to the experience and the adaptive triggers are literally game-changing. Honestly, you've got to play Astral's Playroom when you launch that bad boy. It comes with the console and it showcases all the crazy and fun stuff the controller can do. I did buy 2 games that I'm going to show you all in the coming days and weeks, Demon's Souls and Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I'm going to talk about right now. Just so you know, this is not a review, it's more of a laid-back first impressions video where I talk about what I think of the game so far. I don't know if I'm ever going to do a full-on review for this one since I feel like I'm already a bit late to the party and I also want to keep my sanity, relax, and just enjoy the game. Alright, so to give you some context, I really liked the first Spider-Man on PS4. It wasn't a perfect game and its overall open-world design felt a little bit dated to me, although still fun, but the web swinging, the combat, and the crazy set pieces were so good that the game ended up being one of my favorites that year. Now we have Miles Morales, a sort of sequel slash spin-off that seemingly bridges the gap between Spider-Man 1 and a potential sequel. In that game, we play as Miles, the Spider-Man we saw in the recent Into the Spider-Verse movie, which was amazing by the way. He also played a small role in the 2018 game, but now he's the star of his own game. So what do I think after playing around 6 hours of it, juggling between main story missions and some side stuff? Well, so far I'm loving the game. It's just the perfect way to start next gen. A lot of people are comparing it to Uncharted: The Lost Legacy because it's like a shorter spin-off game that focuses on other characters, but I'm enjoying Miles a bit more from what I've played. It's nothing revolutionary, but what it does super well. First off, it looks stupidly gorgeous, as you can see. When I booted up the game for the first time, my jaw was on the floor for like 20 minutes. The YouTube compression cannot do it justice. The whole opening just blew me away. I mean, the lighting, the details, the textures, the overall quality of cutscenes, the insanity of the first few encounters, I mean, some truly spectacular stuff. I am playing on the performance mode at the moment, and by the way, ray tracing or not, this is the way to go without question. It is so much smoother, and web swinging across New York City feels 10 times better in 60 FPS. Talking about the city, once again, Insomniac Games just nailed the feeling of New York. Its sounds, its atmosphere, its various landmarks, everything's there. I do believe it's the same map as the 2018 game, but with added stuff, of course. But since the game takes place during the winter and Christmas time, it does look very different, and surprisingly enough, I think I prefer it this way. Well, I'm from Canada, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise, but yeah, the city is great, and most importantly, it's so much fun to explore. Now, it's not the kind of open world with lots of procedural systems and things to discover around every corner. This is much more like a playground with missions, collectibles, and challenges. It does have an old school feel to it, but for a Spider-Man game, this is what I want, personally. I want to have fun in this world, and this is exactly where you're getting here. The web swinging feels just as good as it did before, but even better, and all that thanks to the DualSense controller. With the adaptive triggers, you get a slight resistance when you shoot your webs, and it definitely adds a certain level of immersion, which is nice. Talking about immersion, they added this thing called the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is an app that people can use to report various crimes and ask Spider-Man for help. This is basically how you get most of the side missions. Some people will ask you to recover their lost cat, and others will report robberies or shootouts. That little detail of receiving notifications on your phone and scrolling through the social feed really made the world come to life in my opinion, because even if the missions are similar to what we saw in the past, they do feel more real and more grounded, if that makes sense. The app gives the impression that the world is this living and breathing place full of systems, even though it's not actually the case. Most of the missions are pretty cool and fun, but like I said, it's nothing you haven't seen before. It's regular open world stuff, but I'm not complaining. It does get the job done and offers you plenty of content for you to try out your powers and gadgets. But for a sequel, maybe they could try something new, maybe add some variety and more fleshed out side missions, kind of like what we saw in the Arkham games, for example. I don't know. talking about Arkham, I'm doing pretty good with the segues today. The combat. Yes, the combat is so freaking good. It uses the same type of approach as in the Batman games, but it's much more demanding and far less forgiving. You really have to move around, juggle between enemies, use all the tools at your disposal, all the gadgets, the skills, and so on. It's a super dynamic system that actually encourages creativity, which is really cool to see. You can't really button mash your way out of fights, especially on higher difficulties, because things can get quite tense if you don't pay enough attention. You can also upgrade your gadgets and spend skill points on the skill tree with the various collectibles you find while exploring the game world. It's not an incredible feature because unfortunately there are a couple of things I found a little bit useless so far, especially some of the suit mods, but generally speaking it's still a noteworthy mechanic. The story is also quite nice. I'm actually enjoying it a lot. The cutscenes look great and the voice acting is just top notch. I mean, the story wasn't the best part of the original game, and it's still not the case here, but from what I've seen, it's a pretty competent superhero tale with basically two villain factions that you have to deal with. But one thing I'm loving so far, and even more than I did with the first one, is the characters. It's such a breath of fresh air to have a Spider-Man story without focusing on Peter Parker, Aunt May, and all those people. Miles is a great protagonist with super interesting internal struggles, and the side characters like his mom Rio, Genki's best friend, Finn, Uncle Aaron are all awesome characters, honestly. Compared to the 2018 game, for instance, I care for the characters more in Miles Morales, but care just as much as I did for the villains and the actual plot. So yeah, I'm having a ton of fun at the moment. If you didn't enjoy the 2018 game, this will not change your mind. It's more of the same, but if you did like it, you'll love Miles Morales even more because it's simply a better version of the original's formula. Like I said, it's not a groundbreaking game in terms of game design, but it's exactly what I needed at this moment. It's incredibly fun, the feeling of freedom you get while web swinging is crazy, and just from a technical standpoint, it's a very impressive showcase for the PS5. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, the soundtrack is unbelievable. The mix of hip-hop and orchestral music is just brilliant. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed my first impressions on Spider-Man Miles Morales. I'm so happy to be able to bring some PS5 content on the channel so early into next gen. I hope you will enjoy what I have in store. As I said earlier, I don't think I'm gonna do a full review for Miles Morales simply because, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of exhausted after doing so many reviews back to back. I'm fairly new to this whole YouTube thing, so I gotta get used to this rhythm. But I do have another first impressions video coming up for Demon's Souls, not sure when exactly, but it will come. And I'm also working on a couple of gameplay showcases for Spider-Man. Keep an eye out for that. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss anything, and I'll talk to you later.